What's going on, folks? My name is Jimmy Cowder. Welcome to the channel. Today we're reviewing a 1998 Buell S1 Lightning, and this bike is outfitted with an exhaust, and it's got a monster tack, and it has a few other odds and ends, some different mirrors, and let's hop on this thing. First impression, guys, it feels a lot more forward than a Japanese Street Fighter. If I could compare this to a Z1000, it feels pretty similar, just a little bit more leaned over, a little bit more racy. And chassis so far seems pretty good. Now this is an S1 Lightning, which means it has a modified version of a Sportster engine. Now the cams that are in this bike are the same thing as the Screaming Eagle 497 Boltons. That is a really popular cam upgrade for the Sportsters, and it's also the same cam grind as the Andrews N4. So what I'm probably going to notice about this motor, and what I noticed about this cam, is it doesn't have a lot of lift, so it's not super torquey down low, but it does have a lot of duration and a fair amount of overlap. So I'm expecting the motor on this bike to come alive really pretty hard at around 35 to 3800. Yes sirree. Now I'm riding with my uncle here, my Uncle Mike, and these are his motorcycles. He's kind enough to let me ride them. Seems like every time I'm going for a ride with my Uncle Mike, I'm riding his bike, so thank you, Uncle Mike. Shout out to him. He is riding his Ducati Scrambler Cafe Racer that I've also done a review on. Let's do a little roll on. Oh, she's quick. I think that's the biggest thing that the earlier Sportsters kind of missed out on, was a more aggressive cam to make it more sporty. Because I mean, this cam still has plenty of torque to move the bike down low. Now we can leave the stoplight like this and then shift it 2500, roll into it, shift early. We're at 2200, just roll into it. It's still plenty torquey. One of the best things you can do to your Evolution, or any Harley really in general, is put a cam in it. They're so watered down from the factory. You know, Buell was smart enough to put more aggressive heads and cam combinations on the Sportster engine, so it made them fit the character of the chassis a lot better. Pulls good, man. The power band's a little narrow, I've noticed. It seems like the power starts to really flatten off about 6 grand. You can take it to 7, but you can really feel the torque start to drop off around 6,000 or so. Really liking this bike. We're cruising along in 5th gear here, doing about 70. And RPMs are about 3,400. Not bad at all. This gearing feels really similar to my Sportster. It's nice is when you're at interstate speeds, it's right at the RPM where the motor really starts to come on the cam. For the price you can pick these bikes up, you really can't beat it. I mean, the only other bike that's in this price range is probably going to be a Z1000, and obviously a Z1000 would walk this bike on the freeway. But around town, I don't know, I think this bike would hold it off up until 70 or 80. And even in this very mild form, this engine is by no means maxed out. I mean, you can still go higher on the compression, you can still go more aggressive on the heads and cam. I mean, you could bring this bike up to 130 to 140 horsepower at the tire if you wanted to, and it'd still be pretty treatable. Especially if you did a 88 or 90 cubic inch. Or heck, you could bolt the turbo on this bike and do those power numbers on higher boost, a little bit of methanol injection. I'll hook you up with a turbo kit. of Buells has a tendency to head shake, but I think that's the case with any upright naked bike. You know, you have the wider bars, so you're putting in more input on the bars, and then, you know, you're sitting upright so the wind's catching you and taking weight off the front end. My uncle and I just got done doing about 30 miles on the freeway. Not bad. You know, you can definitely tell the fatigue starts to set in a little bit after you've been cruising on the freeway for a while. But we were cruising at 85, so definitely interstate speeds. This is Wickenburg, Arizona. This roundabout is right after you go through it, you're in Wickenburg. If you go that way, that's the way to Las Vegas. Whew, that scared me. Old-fashioned Wickenburg. Such a Wild West feel to Wickenburg, Arizona. Cool place to visit if you're ever, you know, coming in here from out of state. What I can say so far about this bike, guys, is it has the same character that a lot of Buells do, which is that it's really playful. And what's nice about the 1200 versus the XP9, which is what I've talked about on the channel before, and it was the first review I did on this channel, was a Buell XP9, is these bikes have more bottom end torque because they got the more displacement from the bigger, from the longer stroke. I believe the bore and stroke is bigger on the 1200. And we're just loafing along here at 2 grand, and you roll into it, it just picks up real nice. This motor is perfect for anything under about 80. I think you could probably go a hair shorter on the gearing. Someone left a comment in my comment section that adjusting the gearing on these bikes really wakes them up. Not that it necessarily needs it, but you definitely know when you're a gear high. I think 6500 is about the perfect point to shift on this bike. There's a lot of rocks on this road. This chassis is good, especially considering this bike's at 98. I mean, geez. These bikes were way ahead of their time. I mean, you got to think in 1998, a 98 Yamaha R1 is about as quick in the quarter mile as a modern 600. So when you're comparing these bikes to modern bikes in your head, you got to remember, even leader bikes back then weren't really all that advanced. I mean, what did an R1 have? 140 or 150 horsepower? That's still good. I mean, way better than this, but these bikes are making close to 100 with simple mods. And that's not bad for an old air-cooled lump. One thing I will say about this bike is it definitely doesn't shift like a Japanese bike. definitely reeling them in hard. So what I was saying earlier about the shifting, you have to be really deliberate with this transmission. Now, Harleys aren't really known for shifting all that great in the first place, and then when you add the linkage that's on the Buells, you just have to pull on the shift lever really hard. And I've noticed that even on Buells with lower mileage and, you know, the clutch is adjusted right and the bikes are in good shape, you just really have to jam the gearbox into gear. You have to be really deliberate. So that's one thing to keep in mind if you're coming off a Japanese bike and you're ready for the bike to shift like a Kawasaki. It doesn't. It's really hard to do clutchless shifts, especially on a two-frame Buell. You can kind of do it on a Harley if you have mid controls and the shifter is mounted directly to the shift shaft. But on these two-frame Buells, you really have to just use the clutch and, you know, shift kind of slow. I would say if most of your rides are 100 miles or under, a street fighter bike is definitely probably for you. Once you get past about 70 miles an hour is when the naked bikes start to get kind of uncomfortable. But the seat itself is pretty hard, and after you put 70 or 80 miles, you're ready to get off, you know, give a little stretch. One of the third major flaws I think on these bikes, and Harleys in general of this era, this vintage, is they were solid mounted. The Sportster and the Buells were solid mounted, so they're just, you'll feel the vibration through the bars. It vibrates the mirrors. That's something to consider if you do highway miles and stuff like that. As far as bikes that are similar to this, I would say this bike feels really similar to a 2-valve 1100 or 1000 air-cooled Ducati, an old Desmond V-twin. Very, very similar power bands. The Ducatis rev a little bit higher. I think the Ducatis feel like they have a little bit more top end, but maybe that's just because they rev more. But if you like the air-cooled Ducatis, you'll really like the two-frame Buells. Woo! Little head shake there. But if you like sport bikes and you like the feel of the naked bike, but you kind of find yourself getting carried away with how fast you're going, I think this is the perfect bike. If you're looking to get off an inline 4 and ride something that you're not super tempted to freaking top out and do 140 on, which I don't even know if this bike can do 140, but you get my point. If you're looking to have fun on a motorcycle and you're not looking to go blistering fast, I think this is a perfect power level for it. This for street bikes, 80 to 100 horsepower. You'll find that I say this a lot, but 80 to 100 horsepower, it's the perfect power level to have fun, especially at the lower speeds. It's just fun. And that's why we ride motorcycles, to have fun. I think now is the perfect time for final thoughts. The main thing I gotta say about this bike is it's really playful. It has the same playful character that the XB9 has, but it also has a little bit more low down torque. If you see one of these bikes pop up for sale, and especially if it's cheap, I really think you should buy one of these bikes. The character of the bike and just how much of a bargain that they can be bought for, I think that far outweighs the small cons that these bikes have. Anyways guys, I think that'll about do it for this video. I appreciate you watching. I hope you enjoyed it. Check out my other reviews. Thanks for watching. Take care everybody.